the test itself, but analysis and as the report will be then given to the ClinPsych to take over from there, right? So I think that one is possible. Excuse me. Other than that, I'm not too sure. I think, I'm not too sure. I think that's the only one that I've heard of so far for undergrads.
Okay, Dr. Jolina, would you add to this? Okay, let's move on to second last question, which we would like to direct to Dr. Joel. How would being a member of MSCP differ from being a non-member of MSCP who also holds a master's or doctorate in the field of clinical psychology in Malaysia? So this is in terms of job opportunities, collaboration opportunities, etc.
I think as a residual from years gone past, right? Because we didn't have the Allied Health Act yet, we didn't have registration and things like that. MSCP membership was the only way employers could assess whether this person is well trained or not, properly trained or not, in that sense. So, and I think moving to 2024, it's still a badge that we can all wear proudly. I think a lot of employers, while we're still setting up the HP Act and all council and things like that properly, MSCP membership still gives us that clout. And I think whenever we are able to say that we're members, we're telling the employers basically that, hey, we meet the minimum requirements to practice in Malaysia, we are competent practitioners, and also the added benefit that we are members in good standing. That means there's no ethical cases against us. We are doing the right thing at the right time, basically. Right? So I think that's one key advantage. All right. But moving forward, I think membership to MSCP, and this is something that me and my committee are trying to do very hard, is to try and engage with practitioners at all levels, right, from the seniors to all the way down to the juniors, right. Last year, for example, we did our first social day, right? So we gathered a bunch of people together to have coffee, to have drinks, to have cake, and good conversation. And this included seniors and juniors, which is nice because I think a lot of us are quite lonely in our professions. We all operate in our little silos here and there. So being able to socialize like that, and these are people who actually know your job as well, right? You don't have to entertain questions like, "Wow, can you read my mind? Can you make me do things that I don't want to do?" And all those kind of crazy questions we get all the time, right? So these are like-minded people, similar experiences, and I think that's always quite liberating in that sense, right? All the way down to you guys' early careers, right? So the reason why we organized this talk today is because we know that these are burning questions that you guys have. These are questions we had to answer ourselves without any guidance, without any information and things like that. So that's something we want to focus on a lot as well, to try and use this platform to help, right? To give you guys a helping hand, give you guys a leg up, and try and answer whatever questions we can answer. And this is something that I tell everyone as well. If you can afford not to make the mistake, don't. Right? If you can afford to learn from mistakes of your seniors and the people before you, do that, right? Because there's really no point in making the same mistakes all over again in that sense, right? So I think that's what you can look forward to as an MSCP member, right? Lots of opportunities to learn, to train, to gain experience and things like that. And I think if nothing, right, a sense of connection with all your fellow professionals.
Thank you, Dr. Joel. And for our last question, we would like to direct it to Ms. Shabir and Dr. Dalina. If you could speak to yourself back when you were in this stage of your career as an early career psychologist, what piece of advice would you give yourself back then? Let's start with Ms. Shabira.
Okay. Piece of advice. I think looking back, there is nothing that I want it to be different, because every path taken, there is reasons behind it, and they brought you to things, right? But if I could stay back, perhaps the so I think I'm okay with cherishing everything, right? Satisfaction and all. But if one thing that I could advise myself is to plan my goal and path, and to find resources for it. So, for example, I have intention to do PhD, right? But then when I came in, when I came into UKM, was COVID time, so I delay my plan to do that. So once I want to do or continue my PhD, that's when there is a rules regulation that I need to follow. It's like actually from probation, I become permanent, and from being that permanent, even though if I want to do part time and I pay myself, it's not allowed. Okay, so I feel I'm kind of stuck. So I need to wait another years, okay, for that. Yeah. Um, but of course, I believe everything happened for a reason. It's just that if I could speak to myself, I would really plan ahead and know the rules and regulation. Like I really didn't know. So when I was ready, okay, COVID was off, and I was ready to pursue, right? So they say, oh, cannot. I say, no, this one not for sponsor, or I don't want to apply for cuti belajar. It's just part time and I can pay myself because I'm planning to do in UKM as well. It's easier, right? But they say according to like government rules and regulation, you cannot do that. Something like that lah. Yeah, that's all my sharing, my personal sharing.
Thank you, Ms. Shabira.
Mhm.
Dr. Darlina?
I think if I could tell myself anything back then was I thought I was open enough, but I don't think I was. I think I was very stuck in my goals of just wanting to be a practitioner. And I think that limited my options significantly. In my mind, I was like, I must work in a hospital, which I did, but it wasn't the best arrangement back then. Because of all the whole contract thing. So back then it was a 3 months contract. You had to renew every 3 months. So it was a bit ridiculous. So I stayed on for a bit, but in the end realized that it is ridiculous. And then again, I limited myself by just wanting to practice lah. So I was again, there were not that many centers back then. So, tried to explore as many job opportunities as possible. And I had no PhD plans at all, Shabira. Good that you had. I was adamant against it for the longest time because I do not need a PhD to practice. That was my mantra. That was how much I didn't want to do a PhD. Again, I was limiting myself. So I think looking back, had I not limited myself and have been open to experience, I probably would have been able to do way more than what I did. But then, had I done my PhD earlier, I probably wouldn't have survived it. So, of course, there's reasons why certain things happen at certain times. But yeah, be really open. And if you're not sure, I think because you guys there is a bigger network of CPs now. Use that network. Reach out. You have MSCP, which is fantastic for you to. You have easy access to everybody in MSCP. Use that access, use that network to help you make an informed decision about your career development.
Thank you very much to both Ms. Shabir and Dr. Darlina for sharing such insightful advices. So as we are coming to the end of our forum, we would like to give thanks to each of our panelists. We're very grateful that you spend your time and had your effort, put in effort to spend time with us today. Yeah, so okay. We would also like to thank participants for spending your Wednesday night with us. We will be putting the feedback form in the chat. Please do fill in the feedback form. It is very valuable for us to improve our next event. And also we would be taking photos. So for participants who would like to be in the photos, you can turn on your camera. Great. And I will unspotlight everyone.